Welcome back to Supreme Fuzzler. We are doing Venture Brothers Season 2, Episode 7, Love Bheits. It is written by Jason Publica. It is his first script of the season of Season 2. I have this book that I'm going to present to you guys a little bit just to prove that I have it, because I don't, internet's weird, that is written by the two of them, Jason Publica and Dark Hammer. And so it talks about how they felt about these episodes. Victor Echo November feels like, in my opinion, this is totally my opinion, that it fits their story-based style that works out later on in the series, where this one's definitely their more adventure-y, excited, over-the-top style that kind of dies down as the series progresses, as they go more into their greater story of the series. But before I continue, thank you for joining me. I just want to say it's been great doing these. And Venture Brothers is still one of the best series ever. Please watch it. Support the series. AdultSwim.com has it. HBO Max has it, if I recall. And, DVDs, everything. It's a great series. It's beautiful. Jason Public and Doc Hammer are great. I'm glad we got the second season. Well, the 8 seasons little movie. It's not what we hoped, but it's going to be something at least. Better than nothing, everyone. Better than nothing. So the episode opens with a showing of Underland, and a going to the Venture crew with Rusty being like, you were robbed, about a group costume event, and that Hank apparently ruined, like he ruins every year, because he's the Bat. And this is the first time we get to see the Bat, a great character who is a brilliant piece of Hank. Ah, Hank. One of the best. Probably top 3. Damn, that's hard. That's later. That's for later. Hank does a little bit of sass about how Brock got best costume, because Rusty points out like he should be ashamed because Brock worked so hard in his costume. By the way, they're all in Star Wars outfits. I want to point this out. So, like, Dean, Leia, and Obi-Wan, Rusty, and Brock, Wookiee, Chewbacca, and freaking the Bat. Hank, it's so funny. I love him so much. It even does a whole thing with Hank where he's like, I keep putting my tongue in the slit of my mask and it catches it. Don't put it in the slit then. I can't help it. It's maddening. Which I totally understand. Like, I back in the day, every time I'm in a mask, that's how I feel, truly. Fucking Hank's not wrong. Then it goes to Underbite, who's getting his jaw put on because he's Darth Vader in like a Darth Vader way, and manservant comes in and is like, he's here, and he's like, ooh, and like, Dr. Vent, don't you say that name, stop. And he says to activate this device of his, I forget, the Science Max or something. Then it shows Brock is like gonna swing around Underland apparently. Rusty's like, what am I made of supersonic jet fuel? Like, why would we do that? And like, because it's smaller than Delaware, Doc. And which is interesting to point out how like it's a very tiny country Underland is apparently. So Underbite goes into his little room and is showing off his device and setting up. His henchmen are all doing their stuff. And he's like, how long has it been? And he's scoping out Venture, and he's like, how long has it been since college? But before he like scopes him out, he has his whole like look around, and he's like, oh, everyone. And he looks at everybody, and he makes sure they're all turned around before he takes off his jaw. And it's like, how long has it been, Venture? He then puts on his hood and looks really badass as he tells his henchmen to turn it on. Although they warn him that they shouldn't. And he's like, do it now! And they turn it on, which apparently starts effing with the airplane. But it grabs him immediately. Because it's a magnet, apparently, and he's full of metal, obviously. Then after the intro, we go back to the Adventures being pulled into the Underland. fucking Rusty's like, lock down auxiliary power! Chewie, lock down auxiliary power! It's so funny how many Star Wars references there is. As I was talking about at the beginning, I've read the whole book that talks about Jason Publica's feelings about this. Doc Hammer doesn't like this episode, and he mentions how he doesn't like the whole homosexuality thing that way it's dealt with in this episode. But I think it's just an interesting little setup. Not an interesting setup, but it's a weird pot thing. Brock is basically like, gotta make it to the border. There's a bunch of cool-ass explosions as the airplane drives in towards the wall and crashes through the wall. It's so funny. Brock is like, we made it. We got it across, out of Underland. And Russ is like, my scoliosis is going the other way. They talk about how freaking Dean's ass is apparently a bony one or something like that. And it's like, you've been blessed with your ass. Learn to love with your father's ass. Learn to love pillow seat cushions. And it's such a good comedy. This show is so well written. I highly recommend anyone to watch it. And then there's an ejection, and they fall, parachuting because of the ejection, into Underland, which a bunch of underlings capture them. It's so funny how they just, oh my god. So, they have been captured. The Venture family is. Brock is like, alright, this might get ugly fast, and breaks off a piece of tooth and says he's got a cyanide tooth. And Rusty's like, dude, don't worry about it. And Brock's like, look around, jackass. And it shows a bunch of posters that basically imply how Rusty's enemy number one for this country. Like how freaking Underbite has declared him to be the greatest foe of Underland, essentially. And so Rusty goes to take the fucking the tooth, and he's like, whoa, save it and share it with the boys. And the boys go off about like, cool, suicide tooth. That'd be awesome. Dean's like, you know what would be better? And then Hank's like, cherry Italian ice tooth. And Dean's, of course, yeah, you're right. And then it goes to Underbite, who is messing Helper up, because Helper also got magnetized to him, and throwing all his henchmen around and just messing shit up. And he's like, he tells them to throw those guys into the holding pens. And then Manservant points out, we don't have holding pens, sir. You've declared that all execution for all prisoners. Well, fine, hold them in the pantry. It's so funny. But then he sees Dean, who, by the way, remember, is in the Slave Leia costume. I don't know if I made that clear when I said he was in a Leia costume. And it's like, wait, leave that one for me. One of the things the book that I have talks about is how Jason Publica believes he did a little too cartoony stuff in this episode. Particularly the fact that the characters from season 1 that we thought died are still alive. Like Girl Hitler and Catclops. And the fact that he mistakes Dean for a girl. He doesn't really think that these are things that he would have done now as a writer when he wrote the book that I'm reading, which is season 6's end, after season 6, but before season 7. And it's really interesting to think about when you look at it from like a perspective of how he just doesn't feel that this was the right tone of the show anymore. It just didn't fit anymore, is what he says. I also think it's interesting that both Victor Echo November and Love Bites, this episode, are their first scripts, but they're both right in the middle of the season. Just episode 6 and 7. Middle of the season, these are the two first episodes they wrote things. It's interesting to talk about, and that's why I love reading that book about this. Underbite gets all kind of weird and creepy with Dean, and it's like, we need to get you some fattening up. And then it cuts to a feasting table, and it's like, it's a giant table, like a Great Hall table from Harry Potter kind of thing. And he's calling from one end of the table, and Dean's like, what? I can't hear you. What are you saying? And finally, Underbite's like, oh, God, I gotta... And he drags the chair over there, and it's such a fucking amazing comedy that's just done in such... They do, and the book even talks about this a lot of real-life events that are well-placed and played upon inside this series that you don't expect from comic book supervillains and superheroes. Which makes the series is what makes the story of the series great. That's why I think, even though this episode, I do agree with Jason Publica that this is not a exactly the style that they end up going with. They definitely Victor Echo November seems to lean that direction more. I find this one to be one that has a lot of their great comedies and a lot of their over the topness. Also, and he talks about this, the Bat, the creation of the Bat, and the development of the character. I never, for at least for a long time, didn't connect the dots of how season 1 he channels dead crazy people. And Jason Publica talks about that and discusses how he thinks he decided to use that thing that Doc Hammer wrote, because Doc Hammer wrote that episode, and play upon that Hank has a little more gung-ho-ness, a little more adventure feeling weirdness than Dean, and how they're going to make him kind of a crazy character, it seems like, but so fun. Dean questions Underbite about where his family is, and Underbite, after being questioned, is like, they're all in a holding cell, don't worry about it. Like, he's trying to stop asking about it, because you should be more worried about yourself, because I think you should... he thinks that she should marry him. Dean, he. But again, he thinks it's a she, and should marry him. Well, the way Underbite words it is that Dean, should become the second most powerful person in Underland, and Dean's like, oh wow, that sounds really cool, and like, oh, so you agree? Not like you had a choice. So we'll marry, and he's like, whoa, I don't want to marry you, and like, oh, I know, I have been wed before, and shows off the heads of all his previous wives. So, like, a brutal, weird flex from Underbite about how he's like, yeah, not only have I divorced 8 times, but I've killed all of them. Has he divorced 8 times, or did he just kill them all? That's a little different. He's been widowed 8 times, you could say. It even shows on the chair, like, nail scratch marks from previous wives, and also their nails all in the chair from how they were imprisoned there. It's kind of freaking savage how much they show the evil of Underbite in this episode. It's intense. So then it cuts back to Hank and the crew. Hank, the first line is Hank looking at a potato. I mean, like, I gotta take this back to the cave and run it through some prints. So funny. Brock is banging on the door, can't really get it open, obviously, and is like, why would they take Dean? And Rusty's like, natural selection. It's taking out the weakest of the pack and take him immediately, you know? I mean, true, but damn, Rusty. Hardcore. A letter slips under the door, which Brock opens up, and Rusty's like, that was addressed to me, you know. And it's an invitation to the wedding between Underbite and their daughter, Dawn, is what it says. Which Hank's like, I knew I had a long-lost sister. What else have you been hiding for me, Pop? And Brock's like, Hank, whoa. Like, don't cover for him, Brock. You knew this too, didn't you? And fucking Rusty's like, you speak crazy. Brock goes to Hank's like, Hank, I need you. And then he just flips and is like, oh my god, you're right, Brock. He's trying to put us against each other, and I'm playing right into his hands. I almost fell for it. So fucking god, Hank, so funny. Then a guy pops out of the wall. A random, obviously, one of the Rebels guy, who I want to point out because he's voiced by Brendan Small, I've learned. And I've pointed out in a previous episode, Brendan Small is a great voice actor. One of my favorites. I do think Metalocalypse is a great show. Home Movie's a great show. And this is a good voice. I fucking love him. Oh, that's who he was before. Action Johnny. He plays Action Johnny. That's right. I remember this. He also plays a character in an upcoming episode that I'll talk about when we get there. But this guy, hilarious character, Hank, points out the wallflower. I knew we'd meet again. And Brock points out that's a lame villain, and the Brendan Small voiced character is basically like, dear Dr. Venture, come, can't wait to meet you, come through. And they basically shrug it off and are like, alright, I guess we should go through this hole and follow this guy, weirdo. Might as well, we have nothing to lose. Then it goes back to Underbite, who's talking to his old advisor, the 8-ball guy, about Dean and how it feels sweeter and how this will be a good marriage and all that. And the 8-ball guy gives him the answers he wants, basically. Oh shit, fuck. And essentially leads to him being like, will I have a boy? And like, and signs point to yes. Fucking, and then he gets off into him and is like, I'll release you for this for 1 hour so you can go to the wedding. Even shut, asshole. So funny. Such a good part. Love this show. Then we go to Dean again. This time he's being groomed by some eunuchs. Interesting characters, honestly, these two people. They are obviously been fixed, as they say. Nipped, neutered, whatever you want to call it. Eunuchs. And they're very fun characters. I really like them. They're actually kind of cool characters who do some funny jokes, little quick little bits, and odd different. They have a different accent. They don't have an average, like not the Underbite style accent, obviously. And so one of them is basically like how fucking Dean has an ass of a 12-year-old boy, and it's like, whoa, but yes, but whoa. And that man goes like, I gotta go get you your gown started, and you're gonna look fabulous. And oh yeah, and the reason they talk about the ass of Dean is also because apparently Underbite likes the back door, as they say. And one of the guys even says, like, I've seen 8 Baroness come and go, and all of them say the same thing. The Baron likes to play the back 9 in a gusto, as they say. The guy who doesn't do the gown, the other guy, is like, I came here from Detroit because I was trying to go somewhere exotic for my junior year. And apparently he got stuck here and became a eunuch. That's pretty hardcore kind of events. Then they get into the bath and he goes to take off Dean's clothes, and Dean's like, I don't want you to get near me. And he's like, what? You think I can do anything to you? Think you'd let another pair of balls get you next to his wife? I'm fixed. And he takes off his clothes and is like, starts screaming because Dean's a boy. Dean also screams, which is in a very high-pitched level, which makes the guy prompts the guy to be like, I'm fixed. What's your excuse? Oh, poor Dean. Dean's excuse is he's 16 and a little boy, in a way. Okay, so I kind of missed it a little bit, but if I recall, earlier in that, they went through the hole and met Catclops, and they found the secret underground base of the rebels, basically. Then shows these rebels, after the whole Dean event, that they're doing pranks, essentially, and doing a rebel through the underground. It calls it the underground. And how in this place they're doing like Prince Albert in the can jokes, and shit in a bag and put it on a porch and set light it on fire and make them stomp it out kind of jokes. And it talks about how like it needs work, we need better, but it's almost there. So funny. And they then are like, it doesn't matter though, you guys are here to rescue us. And they rightly point out, we were imprisoned, so why the hell can you think we can get you out of here? That's not how this works, dude. Like, that's not what we're here for. Brock explains, like, we gotta go get Hank's brother and save him by midnight, or else he's gonna be married to Underbite. And Hank, apparently realizing that it's Dean, is like, oh. Girl Hitler returns from a mission and explains how they put a cat hair in freaking Underbite's glass in order to mess with him. Hank is even like, classic, good job. Brock's like, we're gonna leave because we're not gonna deal with this, basically. And they're like, we can't just let you leave. And of course, Brock just pokes out a hair and is like, get out of our way, because they're not very threatening people. And they just all get out of there. And they're like, fuck this place. Then it goes back to Dean, who is now dressed in the old school robe Leia outfit. Has that bun, wave hair, tied up hair, and princess look from the 4th movie, rather than the slave Leia look from the 6th movie. The eunuchs explain that they were going to call some friends of ours, and don't worry about it. We're not going to say anything, and it's chill. We're going to just play along and do what you gotta do. Then it goes to Underbite, who is getting, once again, a Vader-like put on of something, but this time it's hair. And then it reveals him to be, he's got a golden freaking jaw, and he's got the hair, he's all suited up, and he's all dolled up for his wedding. It's really nice, and all sad that he's an evil supervillain and dictator, horrible person on almost every level. Then it goes to Hank and Brock and the crew. They're looking at some guards who are talking about how they shouldn't put their tongues through the slits, kind of like Hank was at the beginning of the episode. And Hank does a bunch of hand signals during this part, and Brock's like, you don't know what you're doing there. Like, yeah, sure I do. Like, you're just having fun with your hands. No. So funny. Brock then is like, alright, Rusty, you're useless into a fight. Hank, you remember your judo training, we can probably do this. And he unscrews a light bulb, and then Rusty tries to unscrew him, but then burns his hand while touching it, and breaks, which makes, and Rusty's like, so much for our surprise, and Brock's like, maybe not, and grabs Rusty and throws him at the guys, and taking down like 2 of them, and freaking Brock just does a whole thing where he blocks a dude's spear, and it does a flip, gets the guy on the head, and kills him, and so he grabs that spear, kills another guy with the other side of the spear, because of course it's a dual-sided spear. Then, using the other side of the spear after he grabs another guy, he starts swaying this dual spear around with 2 bodies on it like a fucking monster. One guy's like, alright, fine, I'll go out to him. And he gets taken out. Then Brock just starts murderizing all of them and just knocks out and destroys all of them. And then one basically survives, which Hank points out, and is like, questioning Brock, that guy, we're gonna get him, like, because I forgot, but Brock tells him that we gotta leave one for questioning. He tells Hank specifically that. Good job, Hank. Rusty even also says, useless. Ha! Look how useful I was. Because he got thrown and took out 2 guys. Brock walks up to this guy and is like, grabs his fucking balls and pushes him against the wall and is like, talk or I'll destroy your nuts. And he basically is like, Baron Underbite will do way worse than what you can do. And then as he's doing it, as Brock's got him, he finally is like, he stops and gets quiet. He's like, and the dude's like, what? Well, I found a lump. Oh God, what? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say, man. Well, how do you think I feel? Well, yeah, I know, man. I think he likes go, guy go, and they kind of do like really quiet and stuff. It's interesting because I learned in the book when I was reading how they told Patrick Warburton to give it like 20-25 seconds, like really take their time with this line so that he can actually really get this out. And the guy, after they're like, hey bro, we kind of still need the information, he's like, fine, I don't even care anymore, it's this direction, and basically shows him the way, apparently. And it's just it's a great scene. Although it's kind of savage and cruel, but it's Hank freaking wedgies the guy as he's trying to leave because he's like, I didn't get to do anything. Oh, man. It then goes into one of my personal favorite sequences. A song starts playing, lightning strikes right behind as the wedding is getting to start. Freaking Hank, Rusty, and Brock are still in their outfits, running down the hallway. Hank accidentally goes down the wrong hallway, and Brock has to grab him, pull him back. Rusty falls, Brock has to grab him and pull him up, because that's why Brock's in the rear, because he has to freaking keep them alive. But all this whole time, a beautiful song is playing, really serenading this part, and really, I've always got me really going in this position, in this part of the episode, and it's just such a wonderfully done and animated part. Love it. Underbite has to grab a ring off the finger of his ex-dead wife's hand, basically, and during this whole sequence too. It's really well done. And just as the sequence is ending, Brock gets freaking bars come down and trap Brock and Rusty, but not Hank. And they come down behind them too, so they trap Brock and Rusty. And Hank's like, I'll come back for you. Like, no, Hank, don't do this. And Hank goes off about how, like, no, I'm gonna do this. Don't worry about it. I got this weapon. That's not a gun, Hank. Whatever, I got this. It's so funny. It then goes into one of the worst scenes of the Venture Brothers, which is why Doc Hammer says the whole homosexual thing was really handled horribly. Hank goes off about the gay gene. and how Rusty should have isolated it, and he worked really hard on trying to, in order to prevent things like this happening. Which seems not only is really horrible because it's obviously a homophobic thing and just a horrible situation, but it's also ignorant of the whole scenario in general, because the fact is that Underbite thinks Dean's a girl, so it kind of doesn't have an actual homophobia, a homosexual vibe to it from Underbite's perspective, except for what they do with it and all the other crap that is around it, like the eunuchs and stuff. But even then, it's actually this particular part that makes it really bad, and is really not a good thing for them to say, and I get why they don't like it. But they get to progress a lot better, but it's not even really that. It's what I don't want to talk about too much, because it's like, it's a very small, it's supposed to be a joke that is really aged poorly. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Just aged horribly. Brock's like, you'll die. And Hank's like, I'll see you in heck. Ah! And Rusty's like, don't worry about it. We can make another one. It's okay. Then a wall opens up and Rusty like tries to pop the freaking tooth so he dies. And Brock is like, no, whoa, and stops him and is struggling to stop him. And freaking Underbite's like, oh, you decided to come to the wedding, but oh, too bad for you. We're already married. Ah, ha, ha, ha. That kind of thing. It shows also that Hank had fallen over, apparently, and cut his tongue in the slit of the freaking mask that he has, and now is bleeding all over the floor. It looks like it's almost like he got cut, but apparently it's just his tongue. Dean pushes him away and like explains that his name's Dean, and Underbite's like, that's not a name for a baroness. 9. And Hank gets up and just straight up reveals the truth, and rips off Dean's hair and is like, he's not even a woman. And he's like, oh my god. And Dean, for some reason, is like, yeah, I'm not a woman, and just throws off his clothes and be's naked. And the two eunuchs are like, well, I wouldn't give for those. The other one, yeah, it's so fucking random and funny. Then Catclops runs in and declares, in the name of Underlaw, arrest Underbite because homosexual marriage is illegal in Underland. He also points out that Dean's underage, although he is not sure if that's illegal in Underland, which is, the kind of worst part of this scenario. It's obviously actually the only horrible part in this scenario, actually, now that I think about it. And it's just, oh my god. So Underbite freaks out, is like, the cat hair in my drink. And he goes to attack and because he's freaking out, and then Brock, cool ass, like pushes Rusty, has him drop the tooth, grabs the tooth, throws it at Underbite's head, and hits him right in the head to knocks him out. So epic, so cool. And it also has Catclops being like, you come mess with the cat, you get the clops, and you mess with the girl, you get the Hitler. God, those characters are intense. So it goes to the after scene, not the after credits yet scene, just after scene where Brock's leaving and they're all chilling, and they talk to a guy who's like, welcome to Michigan, Agent Sampson, because apparently Underland's right outside Michigan, or right next to it or something. They get a reward from the Underland people, and it's fucking apparently the best group costume, which is a really random thing that's a kind of circles back to the beginning of the episode. I get why Jason Publica talks about how this is really cartoony, because it's very confusing and does not make any sense about why they get this. All the Underland people are like, we're going to stay, and we have a new leader, which is going to be Girl Hitler. And Catclops kind of apprehensively is like, no, I'm happy for you, honey. Oh well. And they talk about Dean and Hank are like, progressive leadership because of a girl. Go Team Venture. And they do a Go Team Venture, and fucking Dean's towel falls off again. Oh man, so funny. And Girl Hitler's first order is to banish the prick. So Underbite is banished from Underland forever. He has to leave. And that goes into the outro, basically. Well, yeah, the last thing is them talking to the Ventures and being like, you're always welcome in Underland! Then it goes to the credits, The after credits scene is Underbite knocking on the Monarch's door and be like, "Can I crash here, maybe?" And the Monarch's face at the end, I think, says it all. I'm pretty sure he does not let him crash there, considering he's not there in any next episodes, and this was the first episode to be written. There's no excuse for him not to be in any of the other episodes at fucking Monarch's place. So funny. Conclusions? Well, a fantastic episode in a lot of different ways. The Bat is a great character, showing off Hanks. Hank is so great in this episode. I like the eunuchs. I think they're some funny little additions. Honestly, even Catclops is fun. Girl Hitler's, an interesting character. Just an interesting take on that. And the Brendan Small voice character, so funny. We can't wait to meet you. So funny. And their costumes are all cool. I get that there's something in that book. They talk about how they try to not do Star Wars references in the next season because they did so many Star Wars references in season 1 and 2, specifically season 2. Which, if you're watching this episode, you can see like they did all this. Obviously, this entire episode was a Star Wars reference, essentially. The Vader shit from Underbite, all of Underbite's evilness on a certain level, freaking, it's just so weird. The way they handled the gay homosexual stuff was, of course, not really good, but they really improve upon that later in the series. And they, even in this book, discuss their disapproval of how they handled it and how they would have changed it if they could and now, if they wrote it now. I also really just love this episode. It's really funny. It's not even just funny, it's really action-packed and great. I truly enjoy it. I would highly recommend. Please do watch it on AdultSwim.com or HBO Max, whatever. I guess that's it for these guys. Talk to me about it in the comments. We'll discuss it more. Like it if you like the video. Subscribe if you want us to talk about it more. We'll see you in new episodes. And I hope to see you in the next one. Keep hitting me up where you can hear a podcast if you're doing this as an audio thing. But besides that, I hope you guys have a good day. This is Supreme Fuzzler. And I'll see you in the next episode, which is episode 8. And that's freaking Fallen Arches. I can't wait to see you in that episode. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye!